All right,
Nice.
welcome to the Pad Life Podcast. As always, I am Patrick, and again, I have with me the man, the myth, the legend, the stallion. What other things did you tell me to tell about yourself before we started?
Unicorn.
Unicorn, Mr. Brett Knopf. What's up, brother?
Hey, it's a pleasure to be back, my man. It's always nice to get those types of accolades at the outset of a conversation. So thank you. And you too are a diamond in the rough, a gem of a human being, ruby in a crown. I don't think that's a thing, but it should be. And if it were, it would be you. So we'll leave it there.
I appreciate it. I didn't put it in the script, so I appreciate the improv that you put on the thing that I said. We'll take it. For those who don't know, we actually script this entire thing, even what I'm saying right now. So, no, I'm just kidding. Anyway, but we wanted to, I wanted to talk with Brett again, obviously, because he's been a big part of my success and my fitness journey, but also just a good friend and someone that I just enjoy chatting with. I love getting his perspective on things. So, that being said, I'm just going to dive right in. There's been something on my mind from our last conversation. And then I don't know if you watch any of the episodes, but I recently spoke with Dr. Tommy John about some stuff that started getting me thinking more about our conversation. And this is what it is. So we were talking about mentoring people, facilitating people's journey, right? And being that filling that space for people. And as we all know, we're always learning. We're always trying to take new courses, get new educations. And as I was talking to, TJ, I was like, he was saying himself, he's like, I've been doing this for 21 years and I realized that I know nothing. So I'm a student. I'm this student, right? And it just was dawning on me. I'm like, these titles we give ourselves, are they really, truly like what, I don't know how to put this. Are we embodying really what it means to be like someone facilitating, or are we just wearing a title? Because this was something he was talking about and we were talking about, like, if I'm mentoring somebody and I'm always still learning, aren't I just another student that's just kind of talking and trying to guide another student? Do you get what I'm saying here?
I do. And I believe the answer is yes. I also believe that certain people are further along on that journey. Certain people have invested more time, energy, resources into furthering themselves in that capacity and are well equipped to mentor other people. By the same token, it's people can fill certain niches for individuals that they may need at any given point. So while it's not just a broad, I'm further along in my journey and you're further back, and that's why I'm in a position to do this. It's more so, as with many things, figuring out what the specific need is and who and what can address that directly. And I think that's where a lot of people that are the students, but are in a position to be the teachers as well. I think that's where they thrive, and that's where they hold a lot of value for other folks out there. And again, it's rare that you're going to find any one individual or any one resource that's going to meet every single need of yours, which is why it's important to cherry pick. It's important to get different perspectives and different coaches and mentors for different opportunities that you've identified or other people have identified on your behalf.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's not that I'm saying I'm necessarily wrong in any way. It's just more of coming back to what you just said about perspective, right? And I think this is important to talk about because we're in a society right now across all boards where everything's so compartmentalized, where then it's saying, because you're a specialist in this, your perspective immediately, because the title you have, your perspective is all that matters. And it takes away my ability to move forward and really be curious myself. Do you follow?
Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah. So if I'm wearing a title as coach, on my shirt. Someone then comes in and goes, "You carry that title. I'm just going to do everything you say." But he is still, or she is still a student that has the ability to be wrong or needs the ability to explore more in, as you said, what they're doing is they might be further along, but it's this perspective then of like, oh, you have all the answers because you're wearing a title. And people in our society today, a lot of people will then embody that title on their shirt or whatever it is, a name tag, where then a lot of them still believe, yes, I am the coach, I have all the answers. And this is something, just, does that make sense a little more? Oh, you're frozen.
It does.
Um,
Oh, I got you back. Yeah. No, it does make sense. It's frankly, if a coach is positioning themselves as having all of the answers, that should send up a red flag for the potential student, the potential client of, hey, this is someone that may be full of shit.
right.
And I find that as a coach and a mentor and things along those lines, it's important to highlight your vulnerability, highlight the fact that you are on this journey and it's a collaborative effort. It's not that you have all the answers per se. It's, if I don't have the answers, I'm willing to admit it, and I am going to help you by doing my best to put you in a position to find the person that has those additional answers that are going to supplement what we're working on together.
Right.
I think that's where you really distinguish yourself, because ultimately, if you're trying to position yourself as having all the answers, you're not going to give the person the results that they're looking for, because in reality you don't have all the answers, which is going to lead them down a path where they now start doubting the efficacy of something like investing in a coach or mentor, and you're doing them a huge disservice. And to me, it's unethical, it's immoral, it's not something that is is part of what should be going on. But obviously, as with most things, we're not living in an ideal world, and
Right.
those things do occur.
Right. Now, obviously, from your perspective and your point of view, you say a lot of things and see the world in many ways that I do. In this being the case in one instance. But what's interesting is that as you say that, thinking about how many people just give away that, like their let's just say their cockpit to somebody else. And as much as, yes, it's like, don't just trust that person, don't just give everything to that person because they might be full of shit, but we see it all the time, right? And it's like, and it's not just in training, it's like, well, my trainer said this. Okay, well, yes, I want to help you, but I don't have all the answers. Like, this is what we might see. Or it's like, well, you told me this, now it's not happening, why? We see with doctors, well, my doctor said this. Well, okay, well, did they look at this part? You know what I mean? It's not bashing anybody. It's just a matter of, we just get so caught up in like, what I'm ultimately getting at is people not taking that, that witness of their own cockpit and saying like, let me take action. Because like you said earlier, if I don't have the answers, let's find someone who can help you. And in many cases, it's just going to the person themselves just and going, hey, you really do have the answers. You just need to be willing to sit with self and find it. And I just think going back to this, was originally talking about being student, is really just in many ways, one student's a little further along or much further along, but it's that other student, well, it's a two-way street, being able to process the information, process self in that moment of whether it's exercise, whether it's learning a skill of other kinds, right? And I just think this is, I guess in a nutshell, what it's getting back to is really knowing I have that reign if I'm willing to take it and not just giving it to somebody else. Because the minute you start doing that, then you lose sight of self, you lose sight in for a lot of people, your identity becomes someone else doing, something else, right? I mean, you hear all the time in our world where it's like, when people would be like, oh, I was bragging to you, like, oh, my trainer this, or, oh, I have my trainer that. And it's like, yeah, it might sound great in the material world of like, people look at you that way. I mean, it's obviously very egotistical at times for some, or very shallow, but it's learning how to then tell someone's like, look, you're doing it, constantly, you're the one doing it. I'm just facilitating. And the way I'm kind of seeing it now is I'm mentoring you from my experiences as a student, and I'm going to keep learning and being a student to facilitate you. But ultimately, as we already know, it's on you. You are the one that's running the show here. What kind of show do you want to have here? You know what I mean?
Very much. I think that, you touched on a few good points there. One, a lot of times people will invest in trainers, invest in coaches, mentors, what have you, as an excuse to not take that self-ownership, to make it such that they can then, if it comes down to it, blame someone else for their lack of progress.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like a status symbol in some cases, but it's not really addressing the root cause, the root issues that individual is having. Because what you find a lot of times with, unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of us, is we will spend time investing in education, formal education, education in terms of reading, podcasts, coaches, whatever the case may be, and conceptually understanding what needs to be done in order to put yourself in the position that you're claiming you want to be in. Yet that, what I like to call the knowing doing gap, remains very, very wide. Mm-hmm. So you know what you're supposed to do, but you're not taking the requisite actions to get there. And I think, regrettably, a lot of us spend the majority of our lives in that position where we are the students, and and ideally with good intentions of trying to better ourselves, but there's something stopping us from moving forward into action. And most of the time that's fear-based, more than anything else. Just fear of being uncomfortable, fear of failure, fear of being proven wrong, any number of those types of circumstances. So, ultimately, I think where a coach comes into, having the most value for you is in helping you stay accountable to driving right through that and supporting you in that place of being uncomfortable. Because, as cliche as it is, you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. There's no way to grow physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually until you get to places that you've never been before. And the unknown is terrifying to a lot of us, understandably. But that's the ticket, and it's you trample that terror barrier, and then you go even bigger. And once you start building up that muscle memory and having those successes, it becomes subsequently easier, but the fear never goes away. It's the people who are most successful are the ones that actually feel that fear and then do it anyway.
Right. No, I love it. Let me ask you this. Why do you think now, let's just, because we're in the present moment here, why do you see and experience so many people driven by fear? And I'm not talking about the pandemic stuff. I'm talking just in general.
And this existed way before any of that external stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Just from your experiences in life, your fears, whatever that may be, like,
Sure.
Yeah.
So, realistically, I believe that people are conditioned prior to even having the ability to have conscious thought about what is going on around them. I think that as a society, we're conditioned to play it safe. Our parents and our generation, or their generation and our generation in particular, it was play it safe, get a secure job, do it, don't do this, be practical, etc. And that sets our paradigm, again, before we're even aware of anything around us and being able to make our own decisions. And as a result, that hardwiring is just beaten in where we're not able to necessarily adjust that until we get to a later point, or our surroundings and environment change earlier on in our life that reinforces some of the other concepts that are going to help us be less fearful and aim a lot higher in our lives and understand that failures aren't failures unless we allow them to be. So I think as a society, and I mean, you look at the news alone, it's just fear. It's that fear-based propaganda, and I think that's in large part to keep people under control. If everyone's out there dreaming big and going wild and pursuing their dreams, it's going to be difficult to control that in mass.
Oh,
so the fortunate few that are able to start being aware of those things, surrounding themselves with the people that encourage them to dream big and aim high, and understand that fear is natural and can be overcome. And the most successful people in the world still have fears and insecurities. They just work through them, around them, crush them down in their pursuit of specifically what they want to accomplish in their lives, who they want to be.
right.
And that's accessible for everyone. It's accessible, but it's hard,
Yeah.
especially because of the years and years of conditioning in the other way.
Right.
So that's where, again, coaching and mentorship and surrounding yourself with the appropriate people comes into play. So you're just consistently feeding your brain with these positively reinforcing messaging. That was a great English, but I think you got the point. And that's where we're able to move it forward and really optimize our lives, so to speak. And I know someone like yourself, someone like myself, and plenty of the people we've been fortunate enough to be around over the years are operating as such. But it's day to day work, and it's to the point of being a student. It's lifelong learning, but it's also lifelong application on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. And I think, well, I know, as you said, it's conditioning, which essentially is programming, and it's not by accident, but that's for another conversation. But as you just said, right, it's a lifelong application. But think about the system in which we live in. If you take this certification, you take this course, you are now certified. You carry this title with you. You can put it on paper. You can do it in our system. You can openly say it like, oh, Pat, you want to train, RKC? You're not RKC certified. So therefore you can't do that. Right. And it's like, well, now that I have this title, I'm conditioned now to think that I'm capable. And this is the thing, going back to it, is like when you're programmed, like, do it this way, do everything this exact way. If you don't, this is what can happen to you. These are all the reprimanding, whatever the case is. And then people, part of the condition is, well, what if I fail? What if I don't do it? What if I don't get that title? What if I don't pass it? And then I can't use the kettlebell, right? Like, and I'm using that as an example, but in reality, it's like, you can pick up a kettlebell. You can move with the kettlebell. And obviously we know this is liabilities and stuff, but I'm getting into the bigger picture of, we're constantly bombarded with fear, and it's for a reason. Like you said, it's just going, you aren't capable. You can't handle this stuff. We'll do it for you. Let us handle the stress for you. We'll keep telling you about the stress. We'll keep letting you know these fears and all these things. We'll keep hitting them, but let us take care of it for you. And this, you can talk about the news, but then even you could talk about even in our job is like, right, you don't want people to get hurt because 99.9% of us really care about people's well-being. But then there's also the other part where I found myself, and this is me admitting, you weren't capable of doing it. You need me to help you. And I found myself when I was there long ago, I was like, whoa, I am not in any place that this person needs me. And this is the thing where it's like, if you pick up kettlebell this way wrong, you're going to hurt your back. Well, that's not necessarily always true. I've seen people pick up a kettlebell in very strange ways and their back was fine. Do you get what I'm saying? And we could be like,
Yeah,
well, technically, if
it's
you
a funny
look,
example.
right. But do you get what I mean here?
Yeah,
So this is just part of that fear where you start to tell people like, don't do it that way. And it's like, well, what are we doing? Is it because we're trying to help? Are we instilling a fear? Are we instilling a sense of dependency on us or others? And it's just, this is that part of that program that you fall into. People are like, well, you're not a doctor, or, well, you're not a tier, whatever coach. You're not this, you're not that. So what do you know? And this just keeps going back to me talking about mentoring is well, everyone's always going to be a student. It's just obviously how far along you are. And it's just this embodying of titles and embodying of the system, obviously, where we're told, well, now that you have a title, therefore you have this expansion of being able to, your perspective is the only one that matters. And I just think for me, this was just something that was on my mind. And I know I'm very broad with what I'm saying, but it's just wanted to see kind of where you're at. And you're definitely bringing up some really good points. And I couldn't agree more on a lot of them. So anything you want to add to that? I know I kind of just went on there.
no, it's I mean, you see it again with children in particular. It's not children, but it starts at that early age. Don't do it, you're going to get hurt.
Mhm.
Don't do this, you're going to get hurt. It's there's that. You can't protect people from everything.
Right.
And I find that unless it's really life or death, like literally don't jump out of a plane without a parachute type of deal,
Right.
like, because that's poor decision making. And that could lead to, very bad consequences.
Right.
Beyond that, people need to experience those failures. They need to have that experiential type of endeavor in their life. Otherwise, they're not really going to internalize the lessons. It's all well and good to have those titles and have that education and do all of those things, but without the practical application, without the benefit of experiencing defeat, you're not really going to grow and get better and move forward in your life. So we're doing people a disservice and our kids and our employees and our mentees and all of them by keeping the training wheels on at all times and discussing the potential negative outcomes with them. I think that where we really want to take things is expecting positive outcomes, expecting things to go well. And then inevitably, if things don't, you're going to have to adjust accordingly anyhow.
Right.
So rather than just, coming from that fear-based approach of, do it this way so X, Y, and Z doesn't happen, which in 99 times out of 100 doesn't actually play out the way that we make it out to be in our heads. Right. Let's expect those positive outcomes. Let's encourage people to go get it. And then we'll regroup and evaluate and see what worked, what didn't work. And we can again, continue to move it forward. But I think we as an overall people need a bit of a mindset shift in terms of just being excited about the future, expecting to do well, and again, surrounding ourselves with people that are going to support us and shoot us straight on all of these things, rather than the training wheels, kids' gloves, and just trying to protect us, because it's not really doing what is intended anyhow. It's just holding us back.
I agree, man. I absolutely agree. And just to kind of step back, you were talking about these fears, right? And when to jump in. Just today, for example, with the little guy, we're walking on the sidewalk and he wants to cross the street. And we're always saying, like, hold my hand, like, make sure you hold my hand. And I'm trying to get him to go one way and he's trying to go the other. So he's letting go and he's walking towards the street. And just out of instinct, obviously I grab him, but I get really loud and it startled him. And in my mind, I was like, and I was very stern. I didn't like spank them or like go crazy on them, but I was like very stern because I was like, I'm not trying to destroy your mind and traumatize you, but I need you to know that what you might have just done, there is going to be huge consequences. So there needs to be some sense of fear is an appropriate response to know that you don't do that. Right. And this is just one of the things that, I'm learning is like knowing as a parent, for example, with my patience and being able to try to, knowing, hey, is this the appropriate response to what is happening in front of you? And there's definitely times where like my patience runs thin, you know how it is as a parent. And it's knowing, like reflecting, did I make the right decision? Did I respond in a way that is traumatizing? And did I overreact? Or was this the appropriate response? You know what I mean? Because as you said, in regards to like people who thrive and who are big, like they're always going to have fear. Fear is necessary. Like, so when people say we're, living in a world right now where fear is really the disease, which I believe so, it's knowing that fear isn't a bad thing. It's not that any fear is a problem. It's knowing the balance, right? It's always coming back to this balance of knowing when is this appropriate fear. Like, okay, I want to lift this weight well. Like I need to be confident, right? So it's building up, allowing those fears to know, okay, these are nerves. They're telling me something, right? I don't want to pull my back. I don't want to do, I don't want to tear something. I don't want to get lightheaded and pass out. I've seen videos, whatever the case is causing the fear, and just going, is this something that's far out of my reach, right? Like just taking these small steps back is like, is my response matching what's really right in front of me? You know what I mean? And it's kind of shifting back to stepping out of our cockpit and, giving it to somebody else, because then you're not using your own logic, your own critical thinking, your own ability to reason what's happening directly in front of us. And this goes, as you said, about, people keeping the training wheels on us. It's because as children, right, those parts of your brain aren't fully, formed yet. So you do need somebody to hold your hand and tell you like, hey, here's the logical process. Here's some critical aspects of it. Did you think about this? And you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Right. So it's like very much of us as adults are still kind of truly in that childlike mindset where it's like you're immediately going into the fear. You're not critically thinking about, okay, well, what's right in front of me? You know what I mean? And just for an example is like, you tell someone like, I can't squat. Like I cannot squat. It's so bad. Like it hurts my knees. It hurts everything. I can't do it. I can't do it. Okay. Can you sit down for me? Yeah. Okay. Just stand up for a sec. Okay. Okay. Can you sit back down? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, right. Exactly. Right. And then see, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then people go, okay, well, you just did a squat pattern. Wait, what? Right. It's like the logic doesn't make sense, but their fear, you know what I mean? I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but do you see what I mean a little bit here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's again, in a lot of cases, it's the overriding emotion, the overriding paradigm for a lot of us.
Right.
And what you're talking about with the example with your son, it's similar to what I was saying with the parachute example. There are certain things that fear is an appropriate response, something appropriate to potentially instill, because there are very tangible, very negative consequences associated with doing it the wrong way.
Right.
We don't want our kids getting hit by cars. Like, so they have to be aware and they have to understand that, there are those negative consequences ultimately that are real. But the counterpoint ultimately, and with most things. So, for example, changing careers, or we'll use that as the example. Changing careers. You're at a job that you don't like, but you're doing it because it's safe and because you need, or think you need that quote unquote stability. You've got fear of actually going after what would be much more in line with what you value on a personal level, and creating something in your career that is in alignment with that, because you've been conditioned to
Mhm.
seek that safety, stability, regardless of what it's doing to your mental health and your happiness and all of those things.
Mhm.
And it's not being reckless to chase your dreams. It's we have infinite potential. I really truly believe that, and the majority of us don't even scratch the surface of it because of that fear, and because we're not taking the time to evaluate ourselves critically to understand, here's what I'm doing well, and here's how I can leverage that moving forward. Here's where my opportunities are. Where can I find resources that can help me understand it so I can have practical application tools to utilize to address those things and move it forward. So important to really understand who we are, what we want, where this fear comes from, and tackle it and move it forward if we are going to achieve that level of happiness and success that we're certainly capable of.
Yeah, no, yeah, there's definitely a few points that I want to tap into with you. Said you brought up so many good points, and I'll start with as you said, we use words and phrases like follow your dreams, and you said we have this potential that we're not necessarily fully tapping into, or we're starting to learn more about this potential. And it makes me think, right, of like when you think most people who think about a dream, just follow me for a sec. Most people, because of exhaustion, because of tiredness, don't have very vivid dreams. They lose sight of their dreams. It's very strange. They don't remember where they were, who was in it. It becomes so vague. But when you understand a vision of what you want to become or where you want to be in life, is that a dream? Or is that just you manifesting a seed of thought into your mind? And just like anything else, it starts to sprout. You have to feed it, right? As I've been gardening more, you take a seed, you have to get it in the soil. You have to it has to be the right temperature outside. It has to be the right conditions. You need to make sure that it's safe in there. You need to know how far apart each one is. You need to give it water. You need to make sure it's getting sun. But you also have to know, what's the soil life like? Is the soil going to make whatever that is in that bio available? So like when you think about as our thoughts, you can plant the idea of a thought into your mind, but what's the soil life like? What is your emotional state? What's your physical state? What's your mental state? What is your spiritual state? Right? This is the soil that then these ideas, these thoughts manifest from, or germinate rather. And so what's just so interesting is we keep telling ourselves like a dream, like follow my dream. Oh, you're frozen. Hold on. Oh, there you go. You're good now. You're good. But they say, we say, hey, follow your dream. And most people just thinking about how words, they go, well, the dream is just so far fetched, or, oh, that's out of my realm. But understanding it's like, no, this is just a manifestation of an idea. If, as you said, hey, if you want to be this or go do that or try this, you just need to plant that seed. But it's also understanding, well, where are you planting that seed? Like, what is this system that you're planting it in? Because obviously, if you're trying to, go into it in a mindset of like, oh, I'll never get there, right? Okay, well, you just planted, a broccoli in the dead of summer, right? It's going to be a lot more challenging, right? And you did it in a place where it's not going to get enough sun. Well, sure, yes. Then you're absolutely right that is impossible. But it's also understanding, right? Is like, okay, this isn't a dream. This is absolutely a reality. The minute you bring it into fruition and plant that thought, it has become a reality. It's just like I'll use the growing. Just how far are you allowing it to germinate? How far are you allowing it to sow and grow? That's all it really becomes, right? Because I can plant it something and it germinates, but then after that, the conditions are just not right, and it doesn't make it, right? It still was planted, it was still started, but how much do we feed it? How much are we giving it exactly what it needs? And this is essentially what we're talking about in this fear, right? I would look at fear in regards to the planting and the growing stuff. Fear is like that healthy amount of hard weather conditions. It's the healthy amount of, animals or things in the soil that are causing maybe a little disruption. But what it's doing is it's helping your plant have resilience. You can't keep your plants inside all the time if they're not getting some fresh air, a lot of them, because they need to feel those harsh conditions to actually build a strong foundation, a strong, outer core. Do you follow what I'm saying?
100%.
And so this is what's so interesting to me is, and I've been having a lot of conversations with other people about this recently, and it goes to show you about our world when we think we're just the mentor and we have all the answers, and you don't allow yourself to really be the student, like really step into it and go, I still don't know much, and I'm constantly learning. Well, just me talking about this from planting and just trying to garden, and then talking to people about, this electric system of what we call Earth. It has blown my mind. Where now, I'm reading, I'm now not even reading training books. I'm reading about alchemy. I'm reading about hunting. I'm reading about gardening. I'm reading about electricity in order to make more sense of the world that I can then express it through, which just happens to be personal training. And people are like, oh, how do you bring it all together? Well, if you just hear the parallels, you start to realize that it's all connected. We are not separate from this thing. We've never been separate from it. That's just the illusion, the programming, to think that because we're in this material world, life is about the material. Separate yourself from it. We see it with our grocery stores. We see it with our water supplies. We see it, with our, our currency and our money exchanges and all these things. It just, you start to realize that there's this sense of we're above it, right? So we start to think like, let me give it to somebody else to fix it for me, or let this other thing do it, rather than taking that ownership and knowing when I can complete it, when I can think it, bring it, give it life, plant it, grow it, water, all those things. And then I successfully complete this, thinking about just what world of a difference that makes when now you have more people like that, and understanding that fear, as I said, the conditions aren't what drive you. It's not like you're getting harsh weather all the time. It's getting that healthy dose of, you know what I mean? To make you more resilient. So these are total tangent here. I know I just brought so many things.
This is right in the wheelhouse. That was terrific. Because I'm in such agreement with what you said, and then just how you created that imagery around it is spot on as well. You think about these things, the phone, the iPhone, the computer, everything that we're talking about here started out here and then ended up out in the world at large. So, I would imagine when Steve Jobs and the Wright brothers started talking about these types of creations, people looked at them like, dude, you guys are fucking nuts. What are you talking about here? That's not realistic for you to do, because it never existed to that point. But everything that's in existence didn't exist at the outset. It started in someone's imagination and was built out from there. So, I think that, the way that we want to I help as many people as possible is by encouraging them to use those higher faculties. Sorry, got distracted there.
No worries.
Use things like their imagination, their intuition, their will. We're living through our five senses mostly and thinking that's all there is. But in reality, a lot of it isn't necessarily seen. So, we think in pictures. Anything that goes on, again, becomes a picture in our mind. And what's interesting is our subconscious can't deduce what's a real experience and what's an imagined experience.
Yep.
Which means that if we are imagining these things, imagining who we want to become, imagining the iPhone in our head, and reinforcing that day after day after day and starting to imprint that on our subconscious, we are going to then be in that state of vibration that's going to move our body into action, that's going to bring those circumstances, those tangible events into our lives that are going to continue to propel us forward, because everything is interconnected, because everything is electrically based. It's going to, you ultimately magnetize yourself when it's all said and done. I know this sounds a little bit crazy to a lot of us, but
Dude,
no, it really is true. There's a lot of merit to believe it, because it takes no more effort to believe that these things are true and to believe in and expect positive outcomes as it does to, have fear, anxiety. It's really, everything
right.
is just opposite. So why not trend towards that positive visualization? Why not trend towards expecting those positive outcomes, and putting yourself into that position where you're ultimately attracting these things and bringing them into your reality.
Dude, you're hitting some points, man. For anyone listening, most of my audience, the people that do chime in, go down that intuition, as you said, about the electromagnetic force. The people that do listen, the majority, they get it, because this is the thing, is because a lot of people that I listen to, we have a lot of same people that we are interested in hearing from. So they're the ones that we're constantly called, the conspiracy theorists, and we're the crazy people, a lot of us. But shout out to all these people here, because what it is I realized, for me, when I've been called these things, I realize I'm just somebody just trying to ask questions. I'm really trying to understand the world around me. I need to know my potential, because my intuition's guiding me. I'm feeling it, and I want to know it. I want to tap into it. And this is what a lot of us do. And as you start to hear yourself talking about these magnetic attractions and electrical attractions and responses, you start realizing that, oh, this is more important than they're making it out to be, and we need to pay attention. We need to listen. And what is also fascinating, as you were talking about just these different electromagnetics, this has brought me into talking to other people. And if you have time, go listen to the conversation I had with his name's LC King, Lucas King. It's one of the recent ones, called As Above, So Below. Highly recommend just listen to it, just so you can, yeah, it's one of my recent ones. So, as well as Benjamin Balderson. Just when you have time, listen to those, because this isn't us talking about training per se. I mean, I bring it in the conversation, but it's showing you these electric responses, these symbioses that are happening. We talk about it from the molecular level within the body, but then within the plant life, but as well as between the zodiacs, the sun and the moon. And you start to see and understand how all this shit plays out. And as you said, most of us live in this mindset of picture. And this was one of the things we talk about, is when you watch these movies that we constantly are enthralled with, right? The superhero movies, the action movies, we start to want to be like them, but we're like, oh, they're a superhero, like, right? So like that potential, but you see people coming in wanting to train like the superheroes. I mean, obviously when I was working where you are, we've seen these superhero characters at the gym. Like, you see them as, preparing, or, whatever the case is, right? So you start to think, you go, well, you want to be like the idea, like this idolatry of this character, or what they means of something bigger. And when you understand that all these movies, these pictures we see that are just picture after picture, which makes it these frames that turn into film, which becomes a movie, you start to realize that the people who created it, it all goes back to the zodiac, every single one. When you understand that the hero's journey, script writing, and understanding these arcs that we see in movies is a direct correlation to the zodiac. And I can prove that. And when you understand the zodiac and you understand this place that we live, and we're all in it, and it's no different, like, we're part of the system, you start to understand that what they're showing you is the potentials of you as man or woman. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily you're going to do some of the things, but a lot of it's not far-fetched. We see people doing extreme things. The Ripley's Believe It or Not, these movies or these TV shows about people who have these extreme talents and all these things. And you start going, whoa, the human potential is insane.
Yeah.
But then when you understand that we learn from pictures, we're constantly being shown exactly the zodiac, this arc of the zodiac in many ways, but that same arc is truly within all of us as well, and we are no different. It comes back to these electrical exchanges. It comes back to this magnetism, and it's literally just constant reminder. But we were so disconnected because of programming and the system itself there's a reason for it, but that's neither here nor there. But its understanding is that we innately, you said, that intuition of like, man, I feel so connected to this character. I feel so connected to this idea of what this means. Well, the reason why is because it truly is your human potential. We're just told it's not. We're told that we need to depend on someone else or a pill or this diet or whatever the case is in order to be that material success that we constantly are told that that's all that matters. And you see it when we train people, when they come in, they, I just want to lose 5 pounds, or I want to, get rid of this. And as you go through this journey with trainers that are really on that path of helping, they go, I don't know why I was so focused on that. I love this feeling of just being in my body and feeling I move better. You know what I mean? Like, you start to realize this literally programming of the material is constantly with trainers. A lot of times is you're kind of deprogramming that. Not some people purposely, but some people don't even realize they're doing that. Is you're helping people see like your potential is not dictated by how you look all the time. It's not by the numbers necessarily, these metrics that we keep trying to enforce on people. It's about understanding like you to step into your potential. Your potential literally is similar to the soil. Your potential is similar to the sky. Your potential is like literally like the changing of the seasons. Like, you have these potentials. I'm not saying you're going to change the seasons, but I'm saying that power that you hold within you is just like these 4 seasons, this cyclical nature of the world we live in. And it's all going back to this electromagnetism, and it's going back to, spiritual stuff too. But anyway, I know that was a lot.
Heavy, as Doc Brown would say.
But all that being said, man, just tell me a little bit about, in regards to what you're doing for yourself right now. One of the big things that we always ask for help from others, but, what are things that you're doing? Obviously you look good, man. It seems like you've been keeping up with everything else you have on your plate. You've been able to keep up with your own workouts and things like that. But what are some things that you're doing mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually to try to keep yourself on this path that we keep discussing?
Yeah. It's been interesting because, as I've explained a lot of these things throughout the time we've been speaking here, I've fallen into that category of person that I'm describing in many ways. For years, I've read self-development books, listened to those types of podcasts, listen to those speakers, etc. And I've been going along thinking I'm largely very happy. I've largely, in my estimation, been successful, but it's never fully felt all the way fulfilling the way that I feel that it should be. So, when the pandemic hit, I made the decision to start investing in more outside coaching that could help hold me accountable so that I could then be equipped with the skills that would propel me forward. Because I know that I do have the self-discipline. I know I've got the desire to, but I had a difficult time for most of my life closing that knowing doing gap. Mm-hmm. So I invested in business coach, mindset coach, online training to understand that part of the business. And, it really clicked for me with the mindset coach in particular. And a lot of the things that I'm describing here are a direct result of working with her. Her name's Millie Ristich. And what I've seen through this work, it's called thinking into results. I'll give you a real life example of it. So I started working with her back in mid-December, and at that point, she encouraged me to really go into extreme amount of detail with my goals, predicated on my wants rather than my needs. In our world, we talk SMART goals all the time. Realistic, measurable, timely, achievable type of goals, and she challenged that and said, no, think really big about what you want. So for the last few years, I've been, thinking that I want to get a house for my family and myself. I want to do this, yet I never took any real concrete action to doing those things. And at the beginning of the program, I wrote, I'm disappointed in myself for that. I know I want to, but I don't take the actions to make it happen. I don't know how to make it happen. 7 weeks later, after taking action, I'm going to close on a house that is exactly what I pictured, exactly what I wrote down, in the early stages of all this. So it just goes to show that if you make a concrete decision about, I'm going to do this, if you have the desire to make that happen, if you have that really crystallized vision for yourself, then those things are going to happen. You are going to magnetize yourself. You're going to have that will to overcome any obstacles that are in your way, and you're going to drive forward. So that's a practical example of what I've been doing and how it's manifested itself in the real world results for me. Beyond that, again, it's changing habits that were not productive. One of the things we worked on, list habits that are not productive as it relates to your goals, and then list the exact opposite productive habit. So I'm sitting there and I'm just one by one, daily working on these things. And when it becomes habitual, I move on to the next thing. So, I wake up every day, about 10 to 6, get on the assault bike. I listen to my pre-recorded affirmations. Then I go into 15 to 20 minutes of rewriting my goals and things that I'm grateful for and my affirmations again. Then I pop in my earbuds as I'm getting ready for work, making my green juice and whatnot with Ryder, my son. And, listening to positively reinforcing messaging, whether that's Tony Robbins or, some of the material from the gentleman, Bob Proctor, who is Sticking into Results is, it's his creation. Then I get on the train and I spend another, 45 minutes to an hour just reading and studying and studying myself and really taking that time to, understand who I am, what I want to do, how, and strategizing how to get there. So I spend 2 hours at the beginning of every day on self-development work. So it sets the tone every single day to be, the rest of the day is through that lens of, here's exactly what I want to accomplish in my life. And I keep finding things are, magically coming into my path that are propelling me further and further down it. So it's a long-winded answer, but that's what's really been aiding me in moving my life forward. And I would hope that it translates through a screen like this, but it's all true. It's genuine excitement and enthusiasm for the process alone, let alone the results. And I'm excited about life every single day. And that's, to me, one of the best things that I can say and have achieved in my life is to be approaching each day with that excitement and that fervor for continued growth and improvement, and not just for myself, but for everyone around me, those that aren't around me, come one, come all type of deal. There's opportunities for all of us to achieve that life optimization, and I want it for everyone. It's a matter of having the self-discipline and the awareness to want it for yourself and then take that action, make that concrete decision. Everything starts with making decisions and following through on your decisions.
That's awesome, man. And I can attest, that this is genuine, and this is why I want to bring you on, as much as I have and continue to, because I know who you are. I know your intentions. I know your heart, being that I've known you as long as I have. And this is something, as you said, I don't do necessarily as much as you do in the morning, but it's very much try to start the morning, in my own, to myself. I have, these prayers that I do, nothing crazy, but it always ends really with me saying, I know my heart and I know my intentions, and I'm going to let that drive me today.
Nice.
And I say, and I'm always, as you said about having gratitude, right? And I do it more for myself. But when I take the dog for a walk, I'm outside and the sun's coming up, I'll stand there and I'll just close my eyes and just take the sun and just speak into the ether that what I'm grateful for. And I say, and I'm always trying to make sure I'm grateful for my trials and tribulations, my obstacles, because as we discussed here, when you try to fall away from those or ignore them or look at them as just a bad thing, there's no room for your growth. There's no room for you to actually learn from it, right? We've been in the school systems we have, it's, here's the lesson, now take a test. Where in life, here's a test, what's the lesson you learned? And this is the thing that is part of, we're not, for many reasons, we're not necessarily being guided in this direction because, as you said, right, this is something that you were able to take on, these responsibilities, but you have to believe in it. You have to believe in yourself. You have to give yourself that permission to take the journey. But we're told that, no, you have to give it to somebody else and they'll do it. Because as you just said, you brought into fruition this house that you are now closing on, that you envisioned, you created in detail. How the hell does anyone do that if this is all just an accident, or we're just, supposed to be here and die and that's it? Dude, not that it's that specifically, but I can go back to when I was in 8th grade, and I knew, because I was a little chunky at the time. My uncle, who's a football coach from my high school, said, "You're probably going to be a lineman." I told myself, I was like, "No, I don't want to be a lineman. I don't want to be a lineman." What I did, without knowing any of this stuff we're talking about now, I immediately was like, "What do I want? What do I want to be?" And this was going into 8th grade, going into freshman year. I was like, "I'm going to be a wide receiver. No joke. I'm going to be a wide receiver, and I'm going to score a touchdown." And dude, I worked my butt off. I did all these things. I kept playing in my mind, as you said, the pictures of what that experience would be like. And sure as shit, I ended up playing. I was a wide receiver, first game of the season. I caught the touchdown. And as I'm running, dude, I still remember the euphoric feeling of going, I cannot believe this is actually happening, because I never knew I didn't know I had that potential. And ever since then, I've done these things. And as much as my life has gone like anyone else on these roller coasters, I can actually look back and go, when I've put my mind to something, I know I can do it. I've done it time and time again. It's not ego. It's not, that I'm better than anyone. It's just truly the potential of going, holy shit, I can actually do, if I put my mind, I can do it. You know what I mean? And I've seen, and I've done it with even simple things. Like, I'm not kidding you, dude. I've been in the city where I was like, you know what? I'm going to run into this person. I've done it twice that I can name right off the top of my head. I had an old client at the club. He's an actor. He's a great guy. He just someone that I hadn't thought about in a while. He came into my mind. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna run into Sam. Like for something, I don't know, because I knew. Well, you know what it was. I knew they were in because there was something with Comic-Con, and the show he was in was there. And I was like, I'm gonna run into Sam. Like I know he's in town. I didn't reach out to him because I knew he was busy. But I'm like, I just knew there's this intuition. I'm like, and I said it for like 3 days. I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna run into Sam. And sure as shit, dude, I'm walking down the street, and a car opens up, or a door opens up, and out of the car in front of me, like directly in front of me, is him. And I go, oh, like, and I'm looking at him like, I'm like, Sam. And he's like, oh my God, so good to see you. But not realizing that I just had that 3-day process of like, what, how, this actually just happened. And he's like, are you good? I'm like, dude. And so I explained it to him. He's like, that is so strange. But then I did it with other people. But this is the point that you're saying, is when you can use that energy, that power for such a good cause, as you said, the genuine gratitude, really trying to, looking at a house that's going to best fulfill your family's safety, security, support, love, all the energy that you're putting into it, right? Like we have that potential. And as much as people don't want to believe it, there are people in the world that don't want you to know that. And it's not about being crazy or being a conspiracy theorist. It's because people they want you to keep having to hold their hand. And as good trainers will say, you don't need me. I'm going to help you until you're ready to do your thing. And when that time comes, I put my full faith into you that you're going to do your damnedest to be the best person you can be. And this is no different. But there's people that want to keep saying, hey, keep holding our hands. You're going to be a customer for life. And it's not in the sense of being like, you know what, I don't need you, but I love our relationship that will keep this going. Like I've had that, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But it's that dependency. And this is what you're experiencing. We've all experienced. Anyone who's actually really put their mind to something, they've all experienced it. And we've all had taste of it to some capacity. Now it's just a matter of having these conversations and hopefully people going, well, what is that thing for me? What are those potentials? So yeah, dude, I love to hear that that's going in the way you've put into it. And, the thing I do appreciate about you is that as you're constantly helping others, you're actually doing what it is that you speak. And I think that is a skill set that is lost. It's finding its way back, in my opinion. But, we talk about self-development, self-helps, and working towards our goal. And it's just, I feel like we can maybe look at one piece of it, not the holistic. And I think people can compartmentally do that. But it's the grand scheme of things, as you just said, about your physical health, family, spiritual, mental, emotional, whatever. That's a lot. I think it's a lost skill, and that's finding its way back. So I do value and appreciate you, embodying what that means, because that's, as we know, is what people thrive off of and want to be around energetically, is going like, yes, that dude gets it. And if they're on their path, they're still going to keep growing, and they're going to keep learning, and they're going to keep, just reflecting or whatever. So I do appreciate that, man. That's awesome.
No, and vice versa. It's always been something that stood out. I love that you end your your morning routine, what have you, your morning habits, and that gratitude with that statement. Because there is a level of genuineness in the intentions that is extraordinarily powerful. And when it's utilized for the betterment of not just ourselves, but ourselves in order to help everyone that we come in contact with, leave them with that feeling of abundance because they've interacted with you at any given time.
Mm.
You're making an impact, and you're making an exponential impact. And to me, that's one of the greatest gifts we can give to people and to the world in general is just having that level of fundamental positive impact for people, and just leaving them in a better place in any, physically, mentally, whatever you want to insert there, than they were prior to interacting with you. And I just enjoy that so much. I get so much gratification out of seeing others thrive and do well and be well, and really have those aha moments. And it's, I agree with you. I think it's something that is starting to come back, and it's starting to be more widespread again. And it may be more so just because those are the types of people that we're attracting and surrounding ourselves with, that it may just seem like that. I hope it's not just that illusion, but in any event, it's something that I definitely want to make sure that we have as many people along for the ride as possible. And it's working from that place of abundance. It's a zero-sum game, but not in the zero-sum game I thought everyone else loses. It's the zero-sum game of we all win, because we operate synergistically in trying to better each other and ourselves.
Absolutely, man. And just to, real quick, I know I don't want to keep you too long, but chiming in, do you have to run?
Yeah, I've got 4 minutes.
Okay, well, real quick, it's just what you're tapping into ultimately is everyone having a purpose. People now waking up to what their purpose is here, that they're not a mistake, that this wasn't an accident. You aren't an accident. Our inner exchanges aren't coincidence. There's purpose. And when you tap in and understand that you have more to offer, and that the world has more to offer you in an exchange, this is the symbiosis. That's what we're experiencing in my, what I would believe. But, I love talking to you, man. I know you got to run, but is there anything, you want to add real quick, or where, ultimately, if you want, do you want people to find you on social media, or whatever you're willing or, not willing to share, but any last words in regards to what we talked about?
Yeah, no, I always enjoy speaking to you. I'm so proud of you for putting something like this together, and you really are in your lane and making a difference, and I respect the shit out of it. As far as I'm concerned, you can find me at knopfknowssolutions.com, and I'm always happy to talk about anything, anytime, anywhere with anyone, really. And it's my pleasure to do so. So I hope you have a great weekend. Everyone has a great weekend, and just keep doing what you're doing, man.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Well, on that, everyone, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all soon.